Okay, so welcome everyone. This is Ula here, and today I'm here with Cynthia, who has worked with me recently, and she's here to do a testimonial for the work we've done together. So thank you so much, Cynthia. I'm really excited to have you here. And thank you so much for sharing your story and your experience with everyone today.
Yeah, happy for it to help others so that they can get the help they need.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, why don't you just start off with telling me why you decided to book in a session with me?
Yeah, so I was having difficulties with my relationship. It had been a long-term one, but I knew for quite some time that it wasn't meeting my core needs or the right fit for the longer term in my life. But I was finding it really difficult to make that final decision and actually take action on ending my relationship, which I'm sure so many people can identify with and relate to as well, where you just know something's not right, and you sort of sit on that for a long time, and it keeps coming back as a thought that I need to do something about this. So that's why I saw your content and that you were talking about your expertise in relationships and relationship dynamics. So I thought you were the right person to help.
Wonderful. So why don't you maybe go into a little bit more detail about what was the problem, how did it feel, and what was really your experience in this situation?
Yeah, so Ula, I've done a lot of personal development. That's been a big part of my journey through different avenues. But the way that I was showing up as an individual in aspects of my life was improving dramatically. But in my relationship, who I was not changing, and I was sort of trying to spend a lot of time in that relationship trying to change the dynamic between us. And the other person just wasn't coming to the table with doing their own, self-growth or even acknowledging any of the difficulties we had in our relationship, or even wanting to talk about the fact that we were in a relationship at all. That was something I just couldn't have my ex-partner engage in a conversation about. So I really knew that this was not me and not reflective of my, of who I currently am as a person. And I just couldn't do any more growth within that relationship. But I also had so much difficulty making that change that I knew I needed to make. So that's why I came to have RTT, hoping that it was going to help me.
And that change you needed to make being to move on from that partner and to let go of the relationship, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Which is
Yeah.
so hard when, as you know, what you know about, our attachment styles. And I'd had a lot of sort of people pleasing tendencies in my life in the past, in all relationships. So I think I was definitely putting the other person and their needs first before my own. And so that's what RTT really, well, I'm sure you're about to ask how it helped, but that's what it really helps with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to get there in a moment, but I was actually going to ask you next, what other things did you try in the past for this, and why do you think that didn't work? If you did try anything else.
Yeah, I think I was just trying, because one of my core values is communication. And I guess I have, learnt sort of coaching and NLP strategies. So I think I was just really trying with the communication to, have honest conversations with my partner at the time. I was also even, bringing it up that my core needs are not being met in these ways, and trying to ask him how he felt, although he would have been described as an avoidant partner with his attachment style. So in terms of being able to have those conversations, he just wasn't able to. And I wasn't able to keep going on for however many more years than it had already been, with things being like that, and just telling myself that it was okay when really it wasn't okay for me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I would like to hear what you thought of the experience working with me, and like what was it like to kind of work through those things and release that?
Yeah, absolutely felt like you were able to hold that space, and that you didn't even need to delve, too much into the dynamic or the ins and outs of things. I was able to just express, what was happening in my life, what the sort of symptoms of the problem were. And that we tend to, especially if we are people who focus a lot on our self-development, we've already over-analyzed a problem, we've looked
Mhm.
at it this way and that way, and so doing any more of that wouldn't have been helpful at that time. And it just felt like I was able to just give you very little information, because the real depths of what was going on come out through the session. And like, it wasn't even that initial conversation with you that I needed to explain the problem, because it came out as a result of doing this deep work, doing the RTT and going into the subconscious for the answers.
Mhm.
And then I felt like you were really skilled then with knowing what to do with those answers, and then navigate me through. Even though those answers were coming from me, you were the one, helping me to make sense of them whilst I was still in that hypnosis state. So it was enlightening, and it was almost like, the truth came out and I couldn't hide from that truth anymore.
Totally. Totally. I feel that so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me, how do you feel now after these sessions?
Actually, I've seen, not only was I able to then have that honest, sort of final conversation with my now ex-partner, about the fact that the relationship wasn't working and we parted ways, in a healthy way. I saw that my relationships, in my life generally started to shift. I was able to put boundaries in place with people and to feel fine doing that, which was very
Mhm.
unfamiliar. I was like, what's going on here?
Who is this person?
Yeah, exactly. How can it be easy to put in boundaries? Because it felt so hard when you've got those old subconscious patterns that are playing out.
Mhm.
Logically this is not an incredibly evil thing that you're doing, but you feel like it is because of those, old patterns, whatever happened in your past that made you believe you weren't able to enforce healthy boundaries with people, or that you would be a bad person for doing so, or whatever it was, that just element wasn't there anymore. And even now, it's been, some time since my session, and I've just seen that is getting easier and easier now.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think so many people don't even realize how many areas of their life the boundaries impact, because it's not just the romantic relationship, right? It's friendships, it's family, it's work, it's people you meet on the street, right?
Everything. It's like every, interaction you have with people is an opportunity to identify where you still need that growth. And so it's been really liberating to be like, noticing like, oh, like I've really grown in that way. You can
Mhm.
reflect on when you have these interactions now that are more healthy, where you're putting in your boundaries and that it feels good to do it.
Yeah.
You're really able to see like, wow, I have changed, and that how much it's benefiting your life, in terms of how you feel in your life. And yeah, just being able to take your life into your own hands. Yeah.
Totally. Oh, I resonate with that so much. Yeah, that was the perfect way to describe that.
Yeah. And I just recall specifically something that was in my recording that I found so empowering, which was
Mm.
about, red flags, because I had had an even much more complicated, more toxic relationship in the past before this partner, so hence why this partner looked so much better than the past, but there was still those sort of not as obvious to me, but still those red flags were happening in my relationship. And in the recording it said, you know, with every red flag you see, your attraction to that person dims. And I've even just seen now that I'm just so much more consciously aware of those patterns in other people, and I'm able to then just, you know, put that little bit more protection around them if it's a new person and things like that. So that's been a huge change.
Yeah, that's enormous. And that's so great that you mentioned that, because what I hear a lot of people find is that even when they work on self-soothing their triggers and trying to fix their communication, when you don't work on the root cause, you still have that attraction to the people who aren't going to be the right choice for you, who are just not a good match to where you're at emotionally. And they try and try and try, but they keep getting brought back to these relationships with these people who just aren't going to treat them the way that they need it. So that's so important. And I'm so happy that you shared that.
Yeah, and now I've even been able to give others advice when you can kind of see that they're, you know, like an acquaintance or a friend of a friend, and they're talking about this new relationship and they're all ecstatic about it, and you're like, you know, able to be positive with them, but to say, yeah, just observe how it goes over the few months, you know, so that you're being more aware, you're not falling into something really suddenly with someone you hardly know just because of your, you know, anxious attachment style that you have, that makes you, you know, think that you've found the right one straight away, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Look at that. Now you're already moved on from just being stuck in your own world and now giving everyone else advice. That's so amazing.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So, Cynthia, what would you say to people who are putting off fixing their problems and their frustrations in life?
That eventually there's going to come a time where you have to do it, where you have to make change, because your life is just, you're going to realize how long you've been playing out certain patterns. If you are self-aware, obviously you probably are if you're looking at getting help, and that things aren't going to get easier the longer that you go through these patterns. If you're finding that you're already identifying them, but you can't break through, you know, how much longer are you going to let your life be on standby, essentially, from living the life that you desire and deserve? You know, when you could just get that help that's going to really finally find the root cause of what the issue is that you're going through, and actually give you the way to heal it, so that you're not experiencing that anymore, that you don't need to, you know, be stuck in those patterns anymore. And just imagine, you know, what is available to you in your life once you're free of those things that you can see just keep happening over and over, or that you're stuck in, you know, you can actually break free of it. So absolutely, you know, it would be worth even more than, you know, than what an RTT session costs. It's worth, how much would you, you know, invest to have the life that you want?
Absolutely. So powerful, so powerful. And Cynthia, tell me just one last thing. What was the most important thing for you in achieving success with this work, with these sessions?
Finding that I have, like, it's really empowering. I've almost been saying lately that it feels powerful to be able to stand in your power. And I don't mean powerful in a bad way, like, or that you would abuse that power. Like, it's just empowering, to be able to put healthy boundaries in place for yourself and for your life. And you start to see that your relationships are healthier as a result. You know, you're using this power for good. So yeah, it just feels really empowering.
Awesome. Well, I'm so happy to have been on this journey with you and to see this transformation. It's really just makes me feel so alive. And I really appreciate that you are here today and able to share this with everyone. I hope everyone finds this information really helpful, and also to those people that are maybe sitting on the fence, not quite sure if they want to take the plunge or not. I think hearing your words and your experience and seeing your transformation is really powerful and empowering for them too. So thank you so much for sharing, Cynthia. It's really been an honor, and thank you so much again for being here today.
Thank you, Ula. Thank you so much. So glad that I found this approach. Really, it's changing my life.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to wrap up the video here now. So thank you everyone for joining. I hope you enjoyed this, and please give it a like or share it with someone that you know, if you know anyone that's dealing with this problem. And thank you so much for being here.